On the news tonight, in the spirit of patriotism, leadership of the National Assembly urges Muslims to pray for peace, unity in Nigeria as faithful celebrates Eid al-Fitr. Electoral Act 2022, correspondent x-rays impact of the new Electoral Act and election petition process. Plus, Kano State House of Assembly mourns deceased member Halilu Kundila. Good evening and welcome to NTA Parliamentary News. I am Praise Nwachuku. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has congratulated Muslims for the successful end of the 30 days Ramadan fast and wishes them Eid Mubarak as they celebrate the feast of Eid al-Fitr. Akpabio, in a congratulatory message, rejoices with all the Muslims in Nigeria as they join their counterparts in other parts of the world to celebrate Eid. He urges Muslims to continue to offer prayers for peace, unity and prosperity of Nigeria, saying Islam is a religion of peace, and when adherents go to God in prayer with sincerity, He will surely answer. Akpabio asks Muslims to pray for leaders, as well as for peace and unity of our dear country, and to overcome current challenges. Meanwhile, the Deputy President of the Senate, Barau Jibrin, urges faithful to sustain and reflect lessons of Ramadan in their daily lives. He appeals to Nigerians, irrespective of differences, to continue to pray for the growth and development of the country, pointing out that President Tinubu has good intentions for the nation. In the same vein, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, congratulates Muslims on the successful completion of this year's Ramadan fasting and the celebration of Eid al-Fitr. The Speaker, in a Salah message, enjoins Muslims to internalize the lessons learned from the holy month of Ramadan. Speaker Abbas calls for continued prayers for Nigeria even after Ramadan is over, noting that a peaceful and prosperous nation equally needs prayers to sustain its blessings. He also advocates support for the current administration led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while wishing Muslims a happy celebration. And still in the mood of celebration, the Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILS, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, has urged Nigerians to continue to pray for the peace and prosperity of the country. The former Minister of National Planning, in a Salah message, congratulated Muslim faithful for witnessing yet another Eid al-Fitr and urged them to pray for the country. The Director General reiterated that the success of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is hinged on the support and prayers of the people. In the meantime, stakeholders are advocating the review of security sector legislations to become more gender responsive for optimum results. This came to the fore at a press briefing on enhancing gender responsive security operations, organized by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies in collaboration with the UN Women in Abuja. Muhammad Rabiu Ali reports.
Taking stock of successes recorded in the last 2 years on gender responsiveness, the Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, says is to increase women's effective participation in peace and security processes, peace and conflict resolutions.
These we consider very fundamental because social cohesion can only thrive in an atmosphere of inclusion where every group in the society is being taken into consideration in the process of policy formulation, policy making, and policy implementation.
UN Women representative assured continued support to Nigeria to overcome its security challenges, which women are the worst hit.
I therefore call on all the legislators and other stakeholders to support the amendment of these security laws to further enhance gender-sensitive environment for maximum efficiency and effectiveness in the security sector institutions and the society at large.
It is expected that the initiative will give birth to a 2-year project that will help transform Nigeria's security sector, a legislature favorable to women in the decision-making process. In Abuja, Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
Joining me in the studio to discuss plight of out-of-school children is a human rights activist. He is also the National Coordinator, African Poverty Alleviation Initiative, Jacob Okpanachi. You're welcome to the news.
Thank you for having me.
The Godswill Akpabio-led Senate in the past few weeks resolved to enforce the Universal Basic Education Act across the 36 states of the Federation to reduce the number of out-of-school children. According to the 2022 report of UNESCO, about 20 million children out of a population of 200 million Nigerians are out of school. So how best do you think the government at all levels, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, can tackle this deficiency?
Well, I think first we have to look at the statistics holistically. Out-of-school children have been a major problem in our educational sector in Nigeria for quite some time now. Then adding to this are various problems that have precipitated the out-of-school children problem. One of which is the intra and interstate crisis that we have witnessed over the past. For example, you have the Northeast Nigeria responsible for about 1.9 million displaced people scattered in IDP camps all over the Northeast, out of which 60% are young people, children of school age. Now, with this comes the problem of states not accessing the Universal Basic Education Fund because of their inability to make up their matching grant, what was called matching grant, which is the 50% that is expected of the 1.5 billion or 3 billion, which each state is expected to put in 1.5 billion. As I speak with you today, 29 states have not accessed this fund. And education requires funding to be able to move forward from where we are. And more painful it is that while this is on, insecurity keeps increasing. Right from Chibok girls to Dapchi girl and to the current abduction of students. The Safe School Initiative should first be questioned. An idea of government that was proposed to help in keeping the schools secured. But today, outside these factors of governments, state governments' inability to pay these funds, how secured are our children when they are at school? Those are one of the major discouraging factors that have led people to be out of school. Then the number 2 factor is poverty. Poverty is on the rise as prices of goods and commodity are. And sustaining families have become a problem in our economy. Now, all this problem will have to be dealt with by government first, before we start talking about the enforcement of the UBEC program. And another thing that have been, there was a setback in, was this school feeding program that was started by the past government. Well, I do not know how well it was managed, but it was one factor that increased the enrollment in schools. But with those enrollments, what is the level of facilities available to these people? The Universal Basic Education Commission introduced the Smart School Initiative. And till date, I think a few states, like Nasarawa State, have keyed into it and should be able to take on from there. Then also, I heard that Enugu State is doing very well in terms of constructing smart schools. But beyond these smart schools, the intentions and the will to get the people to school, how much of it have been done? Okay,
all right. So examining the Universal Basic Education Act is the setting up of mobile courts across the 36 states of the Federation as resolved by the Senate. Realistic when the autonomy of the judiciary at state level is yet to be fully granted?
Yes. no matter how bad it is, it's better to start than never. And I think I will actually applaud that step because, like my late father, Pa Chimugo Panachi, would say, education is the greatest asset any man can leave behind for his children. So goes to a nation. If a nation is not concerned or complacent about providing education for the system, I think the idea of posterity, which one of the great philosophers have said that youths are the trustee of posterity, will not be there if you are not preserving your educational sector or providing for the educational sector to increase the level of education in your society. Of course, the future will be bleak.
All right. Is the number of 6 months jail term for erring parents not too harsh as resolved by the National Assembly, considering the nation's present economy in connection with insecurity? Who will take care of such child if the parent or guardian is jailed?
Well, I think to serve as a deterrent, it is not too much a punishment. But penultimate that, I expect that government should put in place a palliative measure to cushion the economic effect that has bedeviled our economy. Yes, these children sometimes are not voluntarily out of school. They are out of school because they need to help parents to source for funds for survival. A whole lot of home now are not getting income in any form or the other. So they depend on petty trading where the children play a very key role. But of course, it is unfortunate that at this age, we are still discussing about basic education. It is one of the things that a country like Rwanda that came out of crisis, 1994, have dealt with first before the development that they are witnessing today. So much that the government made education so beautiful that people started withdrawing their children from private school back to public school. I think if we have done that, Nigeria will be a step faster than where it is today.
Okay, thank you, Jacob, for being our guest on the news.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, the former governor of Abuja State and chairman of Senate Committee on Privatization, Senator Orji Uzokalu, has called on members of the APC to avoid distractions and work to rally support for President Tinubu in his transformation initiatives. The administration, he noted, has sincerity of purpose for the benefit of citizens.
We should focus on governance to bring out the best of APC to Nigerian people. It will be very, very difficult to start discussing that. We don't need to talk about who is going to be. I'm still convinced, very convinced, that President Tinubu, I know, will be able to deliver the goods to Nigerian people. He will deliver. No doubt he will deliver.
2 years after the passage of the 2022 Electoral Act, political observers have continued to release the derivatives of the law. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo takes a look at the process of election petition as provided for in the 2022 Electoral Act.
Periodic elections, a significant feature of democracy, remains a major source of legitimacy for elected officials. Unfortunately, it is not without some setbacks. The study of electoral processes in time and space shows that the process is characterized by a number of unintended circumstances. That is why laws guiding elections usually go hand in hand with provisions for the expression of grievances arising from the ballot.
The proof of electoral petitions by a petitioner is on the preponderance of evidence. That means you have to shift the burden of the proof of your case to the respondent. Why you fail and or neglect to shift the burden of proof by way of balance of probabilities or preponderance of evidence to the respondent, you will woefully fail in adjudication of your case.
Section 130, subsection 3 of the Act provides that election tribunals shall be constituted not later than 30 days before elections, and when constituted, shall open their registries 7 days before the election. The presidential election petition travels from Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. That of governorship moves from tribunal through the appeal and Supreme Court, while that of the National and State Assembly terminates at the appeal court.
On the National Assembly matters, of course, the ruling of the tribunal is not the final position of the law. They still have, the aggrieved parties still have that right to appeal to a court of appeal. Likewise, that of the governorship and the presidential election also gets to the Supreme Court. So that the tribunal have ruled against or in favor of one now does not mean that the litigation has ended.
The Constitution did not in any way say that once a judgment is given, the implementation should be instantaneous. In other words, what the Constitution provides is room for appeals. And that is provided under sections 230 to 304 of the Constitution. And then when one is going on appeal, it is expected that under section 36 of the Constitution, you have not been declared guilty until you have really exhausted all the avenues of appeals.
In Nigeria, while Part 4 of the Electoral Act 2022 provides for the electoral procedures, Part 8 deals with the determination of petitions arising from the process. Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Also joining me in the studio to discuss impact of the 2022 Electoral Act on Nigerian polity is a lobbyist in person of Isaac Lale. You're welcome to Parliamentary News, Isaac.
Thank you.
Since its amendment in 2022, how best has the new Electoral Act played out in our elections? I mean, your assessment of the 2023 election petition tribunals, which followed the provisions of the new Electoral Act.
Well, thank you. The emphasis will be laid on the Part 8 of the Electoral Act, which talks about the procedures to question an election. And then Nigerians have questioned, a lot of elections have been questioned. And there have been a lot of election petitions and all that. And to the best of my knowledge, the Electoral Act have been put in place. If you look at Section 133 of the Electoral Act, which talks about persons entitled to present election petitions. You're talking about candidates and then the political parties. And then you look at Section 140 of the Electoral Act under Part 8. You're looking at the rules of procedures of election petition, which is all laid down. So if you also look at Section 134, it talks about the grounds for petition, which either the candidate is qualified or there are corrupt practices and all that. So these things are all stipulated in the act, but there is still room for there will still be room for amendment.
Okay.
So that's what I think.
All right. Well, with agitations on the need for reform on electoral laws, what implication will such reform have on the Nigerian polity and subsequent elections?
There is need for us to there is need to reform the country in general. And then when you're looking at you cannot keep something on nothing and expect it to stand. One of those things is our electoral amendment. We need to look at it critically. Events are happening, things are coming up. What's happened in 1999 is not the same thing that happened in 2023. So there was need for the Electoral Act to be amended in 2022, which to a very large extent has met the reasons why it was amended. So to my own opinion, my major emphasis is on diaspora voting. So it's going to help and change a lot of things, because it makes those people abroad be part of choosing their own leaders and not passing blames.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of our news, Isaac.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's time to pause for some messages. The news continues with stories from the state assemblies shortly.
Are you looking for a short channel to make your business, goods and services go viral? Look no further, as NTA Parliament is your short channel. Take advantage of our wider reach and advertise your products and services on NTA Parliament DSTV channel 370, GoTV channel 126, StarTimes channel 306, and Free TV channel 706. For more inquiries, contact the Marketing Department, NTA Parliament, NTA Headquarters Area 11 Garki Abuja, or call these numbers 080-383-40464 or 080-770-78055. NTA Parliament, strengthening Nigeria's democracy.
You are watching Parliamentary News reaching you from NTA Parliament, Abuja. You can follow the platforms on your screen for more updates. Following security challenges in the state, Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly has passed a resolution urging Governor Umar Eno to direct the Commissioner for Transport to liaise with security agents to enforce a ban on motorcyclist operations on restricted routes in Uyo. The resolution follows a motion presented by member representing Mpah Enin State constituency, Uwem Imoita, on the need to reinforce the ban and prosecution of motorcyclists plying unauthorized areas within the metropolis. Nsikak Okon reports.
Mr. Moita says uncontrolled operations of motorcyclists within major areas in Uyo have contributed to upsurge in crime, urging relevant law enforcement agents in collaboration with the State Ministry of Transport to reinforce the ban. He frowned that the law enforcement agencies who are supposed to enforce the law are the major defaulters.
Within the state capital city, the Akwa State government had once placed a ban on motorcyclists from plying major roads in Uyo. Some of such roads are Barracks Road, Udoma Avenue, Ibom Plaza, to mention but a few. Aware that the penetration of crimes such as bag snatching, pickpocketing, among others, informed the state ban, having established that syndicates prioritizes motorcyclists in the masterminding and perfection of these crimes to any other means of transportation.
Supporting the motion, members representing Ibionibum and Ibisipo Sultan state constituencies noted that proper sensitization should be given to motorcyclists as well as their assigned areas of operation.
It is important we drum into the ears of our law enforcement agents to rise up to their respective responsibilities of protecting life and property in the state. This ban was made to fight against the menace of crime in the state. A lot of persons were killed in this state because of the criminal activities of motorcyclists. A lot of persons have scars in their body today because of the activities of criminals who hide under the shelter of motorcyclists to commit crime in this state. It is important we rise as a law makers in this state and charge the executive to live up to expectation.
So what we need is proper sensitization. The email should rise up and work hard in sensitizing our people against driving roughly, against committing crimes. I also need to know that there are crime fighters that will get to them. The law will get to them when they commit crimes.
After much deliberations, the Speaker Udemotong directed the Clerk of the House, Nsika Abasi Rock, to write to the State Governor Omoino on the need to reinforce the ban and instruct relevant agencies to ensure strict compliance. Meanwhile, a bill for a law for the provision of electricity generation, transmission and distribution for residents of Akwa Ibom State through the establishment of Akwa Ibom Electricity Regulatory Board and for other matters connected dealt with passed through first reading and is sponsored by Udobia Friday Udo. Nsika Okon, NTA News.
The Speaker, Kano State House of Assembly, Jibrin Ismail Fagore, has sent a message of condolences to the family of Halilu Kundila, member representing Shanono Bagwai constituency, who died on Sunday, 7th day of April 2024, after a brief illness. Fagore, in a statement, said his death comes at the critical time when his people and the entire people of Kano State needed him most. Fagore further said it's a great loss not only to his family, Shanono and Bagwai local governments, but to the entire people of Kano State. Fagore also prays to Allah to repose his soul, forgive his shortcomings, and give the family the fortitude to bear the loss. And that's the size of our bulletin for this evening. For more updates, kindly follow NTA Parliament on the platforms scrolling on your screen. Thanks for staying with us. Once again, I am Praise Nwachuku. Bye for now.